living legends here, Joni and Frank and Tatiana and Billy. And so this is the 48th year of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race, a little different than the first 47. Unfortunately, given the pandemic, we had to do away with the traditional foot race, but go to a virtual, which we're calling the at-home edition of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. So pretty amazing. Seems like yesterday when Tommy came up with the idea, Tommy Leonard, 1973. It was a Wednesday, believe it or not, August 15th. And it was Tommy's 40th birthday with 98 runners in the race. I think the entry fee was $2 back then. So a lot of runners who are just starting out today weren't even born back then. So they didn't know what it was like back in those days, but we should tell them right now what it was like. And so year two, 1974, 470 runners. Marty LaQuarrie entered the race. But then so did a gentleman by the name of Bill Rogers. And Bill happened to go on and win that race. And Bill, I know you won one of your most prized possessions in that race. You won a blender. And that was the infamous year. You also got a lot of respect because you got your car towed in that same year. So my question to you, Bill, was why did you run this race? Like what made you either want to run, or how did that happen that it came to be that you decided Bill Rogers, one of the greatest runners of all times, decided to go down to the little town of Falmouth and run the road race?
Well, Dave, first I want to say hello to Jennifer, Jana, Frank, and Joan, and Ryan, all the runners who run Falmouth over the years, friends of Tommy Leonard's. I entered Falmouth in '74 because Tommy was a member of the Greater Boston Track Club, and I was a member of the track club, and we all got invited down by Tommy. So that was the occasion. And so we had kind of no clue what was going to happen, and but I knew LaQuarrie was coming in. He was an Olympian, and second American to break the 4-minute mile and everything. But I felt like I could race a miler in a 7-mile race. I felt it was more to my advantage, being a longer race. And we're all longer distance runners. Tatiana, Frank, Joan, and I. So that was my attitude. So it was like I was doing some giant killing. I had a shot to do this, and it was a fantastic experience. It went great. And yes, my car was towed. Not a problem. That happened to me, by the way, Jennifer, at the New York City Marathon when I won that race in 1976. So it was a problem I have, I guess, But
you're going to learn to park your car in the right place, Billy.
That's right.
Well, good. So in the next year, 1975, year three, it was 3 years, Frank, after you won the Olympic gold medal in Munich, and then all of a sudden you decide to come down to Falmouth. The Olympic gold medalist is coming down to Falmouth. Like, how did it come to be? Was it a phone call from this guy called TL?
Actually, I think it was a letter, but to also, and greetings to everybody, Tatiana, Bill, Joni, it's good that we're all here doing this and carrying on the tradition of the race, and it's going to come back. How and when and in what form, we don't know, but it will. I'm a track fan and historian. I also had the experience earlier in 1975, right, Bill, at the World Cross Country. Bill, that was his, and I think he'll acknowledge, that was his breakthrough race. He finished third in the World Cross Country. Then he went to Boston in '75 and ran that incredible Boston race, right, Bill? In 1975. Tiny shoes, wearing a homemade singlet. I saw the time Bill ran so well. What was it? 209.27, Bill, in Boston?
That's it.
And Tommy said, well, you want to come down and run this race, and we're going to have Bill Rogers here. And I think that was the start of our racing each other. And I like to think, just as Bill wanted to go race against Marty, I wanted to race against Bill because we didn't hide from each other at that time. We wanted to compete with each other.
So you won that race, Frank, by 11 seconds. And then in 76, it was the rematch between Bill and Frank. And you win again by 11 seconds again. Now, did you win the silver medal in Montreal before Falmouth or after Falmouth?
I think it was after Falmouth. But again, you know, being a historian, I want to also, people forget Bill in 1976 in the Olympic trials, we were running together, within a half a mile of Eugene Stadium,
Right.
Boston Stadium. And Bill started to pull up and I said, well, do you want to go in together? And he said, no, you go on. And he developed a leg problem that he didn't really talk much about. But I think that was affecting him in Falmouth that year. And then it finally just blew up in Montreal later that year.
Mm-hmm. So in that same race, there was a 18-year-old runner. Remember who he was, Bill?
Sure.
18-year-old Alberto Salazar.
Yes, Alberto.
Yeah,
and
of course.
18, and he finished 5th overall, a rookie. And then there was another person in that race, Joni Benoit. So Joni, you won your first of 6 Falmouth road races in 1976 as a teenager. I'm not sure how old you were, probably in 18 or 19. So again, similarly, why Falmouth for you?
Well, first of all, hi to everybody. Everybody looks like they're managing through COVID in good health, and that's important. I'm so impressed with your memories, Frank and Bill. I mean, you're older than I am, and the details you remember are impressive. I came to Falmouth for a couple of reasons. It was one of the Massachusetts races. There was the old Bonnie Bell race, and there was the Freedom Trail race, and Falmouth was sort of made it the trifecta. And I'd run Freedom Trail, and I'd run Bonnie Bell. And my dad also had a prep school roommate who lived in West Falmouth. So, you know, they were pretty much interested in going down to see Ralph and Nina and watch me run. They very rarely watch me run, but they decided this would be a good place to go and spend a weekend.
You remember how old you were?
Well, 1976, I was 19.
19. And you were in college at the time?
I was, I had just finished my first year at Bowdoin.
Bowdoin, yeah. So did the Falmouth road race inspire you to think of your own road race in Cape Elizabeth? Was that part of it?
Well, I have to back up for a second. Jenny Tuthill, I think, had been running Falmouth for a while before I came. And she was a very familiar name, along with Charlotte Lettuce Richardson. And they were the big female runners in the
At the time, yeah.
I always, like Frank and Bill, I wanted to see how I stacked up against them. And there was also a Debbie Ritchie, who was a little bit younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
She was right there as well. So as far as inspired me to start the TD Beach to Beacon 10K, we took a lot of the best things from Falmouth and tried to incorporate them into the Beach to Beacon. And I would say the biggest piece we tried to transfer was the host family homestays.
Yeah.
And they continue today, I know, at Falmouth, but I think even in a bigger way at the Beach to Beacon. And,
yeah.
That's important to me. I always, training in Cape Elizabeth, thought someday I would like to bring the best runners in the world to one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Beach to Beacon just came because I had an idea of where I wanted this fast 10K to take place, and that was from Route 77, which is a state highway that curves like a track. Whoops, sorry about that. Can you hear that? I'm putting myself on mute. This is wired into my computer and I don't.
Okay, he can edit it out. You're good.
So I unmuted myself. It should stop right now. Yeah. So anyway, the Beach to Beacon, I wanted a fast course, I wanted a scenic course, and the name just came because it started at Crescent Beach, essentially, which is a state park off the state highway. And I said, where can we end? And there was only one place to end in Maine, especially in Cape Elizabeth, and that was Portland Headlight, which was the first lighthouse commissioned by George Washington. And so it became the Beach to Beacon. And I said, oh yeah, Beta Breakers, Beach to Beacon, East Coast, West Coast. We never became the spectacle that Beta Breakers was, nor the size that Beta Breakers was. But, you know, I tried to incorporate the best of all the events that I had experienced and bring them to my hometown of Cape Elizabeth. And
I think you did.
Hiring the right race director.
Ah, so Billy wins in 74. Frank wins in 75. Frank wins in 76. Billy wins in 77. Billy wins again in 78. Billy, that year, you had, I think, 16 wins in a row on the circuit. Alberto was second that year in 78 and got his quote unquote last rites because of the heat. Joni, you got your second win. But in 1975, a gentleman by the name of Bob Hall decided to do the Falmouth Road Race. Bob, pioneer of wheelchair racing in America, and Bob and I ran up the east coast of America from Winter Haven, Florida to Boston, 1,520 miles. Bobby pushed the wheelchair and I ran next to him all the way up the east coast. And what a phenomenon he was in our industry, just starting the whole para-athletic movement. And then Tatiana, in 2014, you came and you won in record time, in 27:06, I think it was. And then you win again in 2015 and 17 and 18 and 19. So Tatiana, you've won 5 times. Joni, you've won 6. Frank, you've won twice. Billy, you've won 3 times. So for you, Tatiana, when did you start racing and what brought you to Falmouth?
Yeah, well, great to see everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you for having me today. I started racing at the age of 6 years old through a local sports program in Baltimore, just for rehab. I got involved just to get stronger. You know, after living my first 6 years in an orphanage, you know, I didn't have any medical treatments. I came to the US, I had 10 surgeries, my legs were atrophied behind my back. So my parents thought, we're going to put her into sports and we will make a life for her, whether she's going to be actually in sports or she'll do something else. But it gave me a chance to dream and get stronger, not only physically, but mentally. And I took off with it. I took off with wheelchair racing. I loved it. I actually was in Bob Hall's racing chair, when I was about 9, 10. I had a picture of me in it. And I went to my very first Paralympics at the age of 15. That was my very first international experience ever. And I love wheelchair racing, and it really became part of my job and my dream. And without Bob Hall, I wouldn't be able to do Boston. And I mean, he was a pioneer in sports. I mean, he was a trailblazer. I love Falmouth. It really became another community and another family. I actually have family in Boston. My grandparents actually met at the Cape in Falmouth. And so that's kind of cool as well, just having family history there. And I love the road race. I love how it starts, you know, in the woodsy area, and it works our way down. And it's a great race to work on a lot of things I need to work on, hill climbing, descents, turns, flats, and you get a beautiful scenic view to our right, the ocean. So I really enjoy doing Falmouth every year.
Great. So at least Billy, Frank, Joni, we're all over 60, some over 70. I think our running audience would be interested to hear from you as to the aging process and how you have been able to just deal with that and deal with maybe slowing down a little bit. I mean, we all eventually slow down, but at least we're still out there. So what's that been like for you physically, mentally, emotionally? And secondly, do you have any running goals still? Or is it just, I'm getting out there and I'm just running and see how it goes? Or do you say, I want to run a certain time, or I want to win my age group? What's it like for you now, Frank?
Well, my running goal right now is, when I'm running, as long as someone watching me run doesn't think I'm walking, I'm okay.
Okay.
And it started in my mid 30s. I was 33 years old. I managed to beat Rod Dixon. I was I was 35. We were in my hometown, Middletown, and he was the #1 road racer in the world at that point. And I managed. It was very hot. And Bill will tell you, I like to eat. And I happened to win the race, but in that race, towards the end, I said to myself, this is a lot harder than it should be. And at that point, I can tell you, my goal became to slow down as slowly as possible. I knew I was slowing down. And I said, and now I will continue to train the way I do, but now all my training is going to adapt to this. And it's going to change. And things like recovery time is going to change, and how I do my interval training is going to change. And over time, so you have to see, it's been 40 years, you know, 35 years now, 37 years actually, that's what I've been doing. And so in a way, I got to a point in my late 30s where I started to cross train because I was getting injured. And so when I would get injured, I would take 2 weeks off of running if I felt it was impeding my form. So that was when I was 40. I started to take up the bike and started to do duathlons, which were a big thing at that time. I won't go into, I did pretty well there. As that again evolved, at a certain point, the interval training on a track went away. And then I began to do, my interval training was out when I was running what they call fartlek training, speed play training, that evolved in Scandinavia, where I would run for a certain period, say 2 minutes, and run more easily for a minute. But I really got to the point in my mid 40s where I really didn't care about the watch anymore. Because my goals in the age group running weren't to win my age group. Again, my goal, if you think about it, slow down as slowly as possible.
Okay.
So sum it up at this point in time, I run or jog, walk at least 4 times a week. I ride the spin bike inside because I don't want to go down anymore. With 15 major surgeries, I don't need any more orthopedic surgeries. But I spin bike about 5 days a week. I swim about 3 days a week for about 40 minutes. And I do a weight training routine, upper body, only 3 exercises, pull downs, dips, and dumbbell curls 3 days a week. And then 2 or 3 days a week, I do a routine of core training for strength. So I've tried to, and I hope that really helps people, and because you can kind of copy that. And again, it was all with the idea, I know I'm slowing down. But as long as I can stay out there, as long as I can put one foot in front of the other, I'm happy. And just to tell you, to end it on sort of a joke, about 10 years ago at one of the expos, someone offered me a GPS watch. And he'd given me one the year before, and this is a real fancy one. And I said, no, this one's okay. And to tell you the truth, I don't want to know anymore.
Yeah, that's
I,
it.
I don't want to know. Approximate
you.
is okay for me. And
It's
so
funny because of all the technology now, with people being able to track you. Sometimes I'll run in a race, cross the finish line, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's like, hey, I just saw you ran such and such. I'm like, what, are you stalking me? I don't want people to know how slow I'm running. So anyways, Billy, so, in my recent running and marathoning, I'd get to the halfway point, and all of a sudden I'd hear someone say, oh, so-and-so just won the marathon. I'm like, son of a gun's running twice as fast as me. And not that you're running twice as slow as you used to, but maybe we all are. And how do you emotionally deal with that? Like, at least you're still out there. But if you used to run 4:50 for the marathon, and now you might, if you were to run a marathon today, you run 10-minute pace or 9:30. Like, how do you handle that?
Actually, I was a little quicker than that last year. I think I'm still in the 8-minute range most of my races, and but I think one thing people have to understand is that all of us, Joan, Tatiana, Frank, and I, our careers, what we've done in our careers. Most people don't know that too well because there's not too much information out there about sort of the nitty-gritty of our careers. People really don't know that too much. They might know we won Falmouth or something, but you have to take a look at it. Like take a look at what you've done over your career. So it's really hard to compare. In that sense, I think, Dave. I think though that we all of us, Joan, Frank, and I being fairly close in age and all that, are I think we can't be compared to someone who started running at the age of 60 or something, or 65. I started when I was 15. So did Frank, Joan, I think as well. I've run 185,000 miles in my life, and won a marathon on 5 continents. So it's a different deal, I think, really. But I think the main thing to always remember is you've got your health. We're lucky. We're the luckiest people on the planet. I don't think anyone lives a life as well as we runners do. So to the runners who are out there really struggling now, and I struggle too, not just a bit with aging, of course, but also because of nothing kind of to aim for, that sense like that. So the virtual run, it gives people a sense of something to aim for, and to fight back against this virus, which has killed so many people. And I really think we have to take a look at the bigger picture. What does your health mean to you? Tatiana's story was really powerful, I think. Joan, I know, broke a leg when she was a young kid skiing. Frank has gone through a lot of tough stuff because he was one of the greatest track runners in the world. I didn't do the stuff on the track, so I didn't get the injuries Frank was hit with. I was just a road racer, so it was different for me. So I've been able to keep going in that regard, and maybe I'm a bit faster than Frank now. But I think we've all been really lucky in our careers, and I think every runner, I think, should feel that way. So if you come to a race like Falmouth, we all have had our great experiences, and I hope the people who have never done a race like Falmouth, we're never fit before or never tried to work out, will give it a shot, because then I think you live life to the fullest.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks. So Joni, it's interesting. People always, when they think of Joan, they think of Olympic gold medal, they think of 2 Boston wins, they think of 6 Falmouth wins, and I'm like, yeah, that's all right. Do you know what she's doing today? Today? Like, that's unheard of. That you were so competitive back then when you were 19, and you are still competitive at your own level today. Like, what is it about you that has made you stay as competitive at that level at over 60 years of age? That doesn't normally happen. If someone's as competitive as you in your age group over 60, as Billy just said, they started when they were 40 or 50, not when they were 12. How did that happen?
Well, I think, I need to take a page out of Frank's lesson book that he just shared with us.
Right.
I grew up
Slow
with
down.
4 brothers, and I needed to either keep up with them or run to them for help or run away from them because I taunted them or teased them somehow and they were coming after me. So I needed to be nimble and learn how to run at a young age. And then the ski accident in high school set me out on my running path because I wanted to get back in the gates the next year and wanted to be strong. And then I found that I really loved this running thing and I could do it anywhere at any time, right from our front door, back door. I didn't need the snow. I didn't need to travel to the mountains. I didn't need the expensive equipment. And I just kept challenging myself with longer and longer distances. But, the miles have caught up with me, the storytelling, Boston 2008 as an Olympic trial was going to be my last marathon. And then it was New York and the 40th anniversary, which coincided with my 25th Olympic anniversary. And then it was Chicago, which was the 25th anniversary of my fastest time. And then, it was Boston and, there was always a time goal and a story to tell. And then the Athens Olympic, the Athens Marathon 2 weeks after Chicago, because it was the 25th, 100th anniversary of the Battle of Marathon. And I thought any marathoner with a resume should run that marathon. It was just craziness. And it's caught up with me. I can't tell a lie. It's like COVID hit and my knee went to hell in a handbasket, my good knee. So I've been doing a lot of biking. I really couldn't do the Nordic skate skiing, which I thrive on and which makes me really strong. I can get my heart rate up higher on skis than I can running. Now I can get my heart rate up higher on a bike. So, I just came out of the ocean and, I'm doing what I can do to try to save the knee for one more marathon, which would put me into my 6th decade of running marathons. And at first I really wanted to run a sub 3-hour marathon in my 6th decade. And I think there's one guy who's done that and not any woman. So that's what sort of drives me. I came very close running Berlin with our daughter in 3:02 and had a lot left. But that wasn't my 6th decade. That was only the end of my 5th decade. So it's the storytelling and the challenge and the passion all sort of rolled into one. But now it's like, well, can I be the first one to run a sub 3-hour marathon with a knee replacement? It's crazy.
All right. So a question for Tatiana, and then we'll wrap this up. So tell us about the production on Netflix that you're working on. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's I've kind of found a little silver lining in this whole COVID. When you guys are telling, your stories, it kind of helped me to take a step back and refocus on my whole training, refocus on my diet, my health, my sleep. So it's been an amazing, and to also take on this project. So how it happened was that 4 years ago, Greg, who works for the IPC, we were in Rio in 2016, and he was talking about the history of the Paralympics. And, we have a good games, we have a tougher games, good games, tougher games. And he said, why don't we make a movie? And I said, yes, I am 100% behind you. I feel like it's a story it's never been told. I feel like people have an idea of what the Paralympics is, but I don't think that they really know how it started from one man, one dream. He helped people rehab in England, and now it's the 3rd largest sporting events in history. So it's amazing. It's going to be featured with 9 athletes telling their story and the history of the Paralympics. I'm so excited for it. It's a story that's never been told. And my role in the film as a producer was to help stay true to the words. So I met with the the whole team. I was able to share my story, my view on disability, my view on the Paralympics, how the wording was going to be, making sure that we hired 16% of the working like staff on this whole film had a disability. So it's been interesting to learn that we had to hunt and find people that to work on this film, and that shouldn't have to be, right? So I think it's going to change perceptions. It allowed to create more job opportunities. So it comes out on August 26th on Netflix. It's called The Rising Phoenix, and I am beyond exciting. This is something I've never have done before. It kind of let me step out and touch my toes in something else, working on this film and really talking about it and promoting it. But I think that we've all been through something, and I think my experience and all these other athletes' experience helped to create this like fabulous film, and I'm excited for the world to see it.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
So speaking of the pandemic, you know, I've been involved in this industry myself for putting on events for over 40 years, and I never in my wildest dreams I thought this industry was bulletproof, right?
Yeah.
That even in bad times, recessions, people are gonna turn to themselves and focus on themselves. And good times, that's what people do. This thing has turned into not just a competitive industry, but a participatory, a feel-good, a philanthropic industry. And it's just gonna get bigger and bigger and stronger, and the walls of intimidation have crumbled. And this year my company had 35 events, lock and loaded, ready to go in March. And then this thing came and just nailed us, right? Hit us right in the knees, and down we go, and everything went over the cliff. And, you know, I've given over 1,900 motivational speaking appearances myself, and I need to look in the mirror and give myself one too, because right now it's just knocked us out. And, you know, if anybody knows any job openings for a former race director, let me know. I'm just kidding. But with all that said and done, there are silver linings, like what you just said. You pivoted and you were able to do something that maybe if this thing didn't come along, wouldn't have happened. And as I sit here in my home office, I look out the window and I just see people going by, running and walking and cycling. Neighbors of mine that I never even saw before, they were buried in their house, never to come out. And all of a sudden, boom, they're out. And maybe there's that, you know, there was that Bill Rogers, Frank Shorter, Joni Samuelson second wave after the Jim Fix wave of running. And maybe this is like the third one. Who knows when it all finally comes back. And we don't, that the tough part for all of us is, you know, the only thing certain is right now, everything is uncertain. Like, will Boston even happen in April? Will it happen in the fall of 2021? Will it not happen at all next year? No one knows. And it's tough to plan when it's a moving target. So with that said, you've got over 9,000 people have registered for this, you know, at-home edition of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. And I registered too. Here's my medal, here's my bib number, here's my buff, all kinds of nice goodies. But what advice would each one of you, and this is how we'll wrap it up, give to those runners who, it was funny, I was running with my son Luke the other day, and I said, Luke, do you realize that Dad doesn't have any races this year to direct? He said, yeah. He says, do you realize we have no races to run in this year either? And it just really hit me both sides of the fence. And he's right. It's like, I feel so bad for all the runners. There's no races to run in. But so what keeps us going? Obviously, the love of sport, the passion and whatnot, the health and fitness and whatever. But what advice do you have to kind of keep people motivated, inspired, and passionate about getting out there every day, even though there's not that magnet or target to focus on right now? Joni? You're on mute. You're on mute, Joan. There you go.
I think what you said about seeing neighbors that you've never seen before out there walking or running or biking, I think that shows or says to me that these people are trying to find balance in their lives. And I always refer to the mind, body, spirit triad. And I think that as runners and athletes, we need to now go to some other areas of interest to keep our lives as balanced as possible. And for me, you know, my gardens are like they've never been before because I'm down and dirty, you know, growing food and cutting flowers and giving them to neighbors and feeding the pantry and feeding neighbors. And I mean, you just have to be resilient, and you need to know how to pivot, and you need to know how to be creative, and you just need to keep that balance. And, you know, athletes have their balance of training, their nutrition, their therapies, their workouts, and you've just got to bring that into the bigger life.
Good. Tatiana?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, it's a tough year for everyone. But, you know, to wait on the news for the Olympics and Paralympics for postponement was pretty tough because we were still training like we were going. So I think when that news hit, I just kind of wanted to take a step back and just refocus on everything, make new goals. And at that point, I learned that I'm in control of everything. So I woke up and I kept the same schedule. I got up, I went to go train outside. Well, I actually moved to Florida for Tokyo training, and I fell in love with it. And now I'm there. So that kind of made me realize, like, oh wow, I really do enjoy Florida during this COVID time. And so I kept a routine, and I woke up and just, you know, thanking for, you know, what I have each day, and making new goals, and kind of doing Zoom calls, helping youth sports programs, meeting with them on Saturdays, helping train kids, and doing this movie. So it's been kind of challenging to try to, you know, figure out ways to stay connected, but I think we've done it really beautifully virtually. You know, I did the virtual Boston race, and I'm going to do the virtual Falmouth race. So I think kind of staying connected that way as well helps me keep motivated by putting something in the calendar with the unknown right now. But I think for me, keeping a routine has been a really kind of a saving grace, and doing something for myself once a week, like pampering yourself, or just something that's for you.
Nice. Billy?
You know, I think me, this virus is like a wake-up call. I just think that the issue of health has never been highly valued. Really, we were lucky. We got into this number one most competitive, maybe most important sport in the world, where you get the most benefits from taking part. You know, your physical health, your cardiovascular health, and so we've all been lucky that way. But most people, but we live in an environment, unfortunately, where the sport doesn't have high visibility, sadly. So I hope that somehow we can get leadership. Perhaps it will be political soon, and where public health can be more valued, and more people will have the chance to get out the door like we all have had. And that's the way I view it, you know, because I think we all know how important it's been to us. I think it's important for everybody. Doesn't matter who you are, you know. But it's not been valued by the leadership. I don't think political leadership and healthcare leadership. So those are my words on that deal. You know, I think we can do so much more. I'd like to see leadership from the U.S. Olympic Committee, from USA Track and Field, and public healthcare providers. And they're so important, but I think the job's not done yet, you know. I think it's just beginning. And we've all been leaders in the sport, and all of us here on the stage, we all have a role to play. But I think there's more to come, and I think that's positive.
Great. Maybe a time for a reset. And you, Frank?
Well, you know, I think it's so nice that I can come and follow Bill here, because I think we complement each other in so many ways. What I tried to do, and I think I was very fortunate in that I got into running not so much from a goal-oriented standpoint. It was more like Joni, well, in the sense that she did it for rehab. I did it for stress relief. And so growing up at 10 years old, I would start running to and from school every day. It was maybe 2.5 miles. but it was for stress relief. It wasn't because I had this idea that I was going to be this runner someday. And it was sort of a background to the academic side of my growing up. And in college, it was that way. And it didn't shift until I got out of college. Well, now I sense that it's shifted back. I think it started and was well on its way, even in my 30s and 40s. And maybe that's why it was never that important to me to be a good age group runner. And so it's almost for me something that, since from a very young age, I wasn't dependent on the racing. I had just found out that I was a runner. I loved moving across the ground this way. And I think my message to people out there is, and again, Joni talked about it, and Tatiana, and you talked about it, going out now and seeing all these people. I have a path around the lake in my backyard. I'm just watching people go by now. Mm-hmm. And it's unbelievable how many more people there are out there. Speed doesn't matter. And I like to say, you know, even though it's Boulder, Colorado, ethnicity doesn't matter. And and as Bill said, it's all a good thing. And to go a little bit farther in what he said, in a way, it's become socially acceptable, from what I can see, to have this concern with health through fitness filter down into socioeconomic groups in a way that it hasn't before. It's acceptable. It's okay. You don't stand out. Everybody, and I think this has to do with this idea. I like to think we're all in this together. And I think it's brought something out in people that I think in certain situations, they can be so much more supportive and understanding of each other. So, and also, Bill, thanks for getting into the political side of it, because I think we all have to deal with that. And we know that in this coronavirus, we have to do everything we can. I take what I would call a why not attitude. If a scientist says that there's a very good, even a very good chance, or more than 50-50 chance that this can be an effective, part of the remedy, why not try it?
Why not?
It doesn't make any sense to me to politicize it. So I guess in the end, my advice is try to run for stress relief the way I did, and don't politicize what's going on.
Great. All right, well, I think that's a wrap. Just want to say thank you to each one of you. Want to say, yeah, you're great, inspiring athletes. Yeah, but you're more wonderful, dear friends, to me and to the running community, to the New Balance Falmouth Road Race, to our dear friend Tommy Leonard, God rest his soul. Yep. And just wish all the virtual at-home edition 9,000 of you runners a safe journey on your 7-mile run, and we'll see you in 2021.